And he said nothing. And he leaves with a piece of paper with the names to call. This is what he was looking at. And there's the piece of paper. It took just one tragically small measure of ordinary care to avoid 4 deaths. James Crumbley failed to use ordinary care, which could have prevented the death of these 4 kids. Didn't stop at home to check to see where that gun was. Even though you can't take him, which we know he could have driven around with him. He could have not done any DoorDash round until Jennifer comes back from work. He could have gone to see where that gun was. We know that in his DoorDashing, he was minutes away from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. He didn't search or ask to see the backpack. Never thought then to say, hey, can I talk to you out in the hall? Or, hey, where's that gun? Didn't ask his son where that gun was. Didn't check the journal, despite acknowledging he had one. Didn't lock and secure ammunition. Didn't lock or secure the gun. Didn't take his son home. Didn't take him to get this care that a counselor's telling you he needs. Didn't say, we bought him a gun 4 days ago as an early Christmas present. And didn't tell the school much relevant information at all. And Sean Hopkins told you that. He also didn't disclose any of the instances that you were shown throughout this trial. That there was a message in March about him doing something stupid. Jennifer Crumbley was concerned about it. James was always home. Is he home yet? Is he home yet? Is he home yet? Leave me alone, I have to work. He's fine, is what he says. The incident about giving him melatonin and him being worked up. Didn't tell him that he'd asked him for help and asked to go to the doctor. Told him to suck it up. Didn't say about the friend and how it was his only person he ever had any social contact with. That there were multiple guns in the home, that he was begging for a 9mm. James Crumbley never even shot that gun. He didn't fire it once. He had it, he purchased it on Friday. On Saturday, he was gone all day doing DoorDash. On Sunday, he was gone all day doing DoorDash. And that he wants you to believe he had this secure hiding spot. What, it was a hiding spot for 1 day? We know it wasn't there on Saturday. We have the shooter taking pictures of it. And we know the cable lock isn't around. And we know Jennifer leaves. He's alone with this gun. Didn't say that it was identical to the one in the drawing. Didn't say he bought 50 rounds to take home. Expensive rounds to use at a range. This is the DoorDash information from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And all of the times he passed that house. He was within minutes. We know that he was absolutely concerned about this worksheet until after the shooting in the substation where he says it was doodling. We also know that not once on any of his devices did we find any searches or information he was trying to get about firearm safety or how to make sure a minor doesn't get a hold of it, laws, any of it, until after the shooting. We know that at 10:37 he arrives at school. His son leaves at 10:52. They're gone by 10:53. At 11, he logs on to DoorDash. He completes 4 orders. He tells us in the 911 call and at the substation he saw cop cars. We know that 12:51 the shooting starts, and we start to see students and parents, we heard, arrive at the Meijer. They're being told by dispatch that's where their reunification time is. James drops off his last order at 1:01. The email comes out from the school at 1:09. At 1:11, James is in the Meijer parking lot. It's unclear exactly why. He calls his wife for 57 seconds. That's the call lasts 57 seconds. He's on the phone with her for 10 minutes and 19 seconds. He gets home at 1:20. During that call, she texts her boss, the gun is gone and so are the bullets. So we know that by 1:23, both of them had knowledge about that. He calls her again, 1:30 to 1:33, another 3 minutes, and finally calls 911 at 1:34. There were 1,800 students in Oxford High School. There was one parent who suspected their son was the school shooter, and it was James Crumbley. You know what that's called? It's called foreseeability. That's what that's called.
What's the location of the emergency?
Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son goes to high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I need an officer to come to my house right away, please.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to send anybody to your house right now. So they're on the active shooter situation.
I understand that. There's a missing gun here. I have a missing gun, and my son is at the school, and we had to go meet with the counselor this morning because of something that he wrote on a test paper, and then I was down and I saw a whole bunch of cops going somewhere, and I made sure that I wanted to get to the hospital because I was going to high school, and then somebody told me that there was an active shooter, and then I raced home just to find out. Okay, and I think my son took the gun. I don't know if it's him. I don't know what's going on. I'm just really freaking out. My son's name is James Crumbley. C-R-U-M-B-L-E-Y.
C-R-U-M-B-L-E-Y. All right, sir, I'm going to put you on hold for just 1 second, okay? Mr. Dr. Cookman, come in and see if I can do anything for you, okay? We'll put you on hold.
Thank you.
Okay, miss.
You just heard this. I have a missing gun. My son is at the school, and we had to go meet with the counselor this morning because of something that he wrote on a test paper. And then I saw cops going somewhere. I wanted to go to the school, see what was going on. I heard about the active shooter, and I raced home just to find out. We don't have to discover or argue about whether or not he was put on notice that something was really, really wrong. He says it. He says it. He calls and he says, because of this meeting at the school, and because I have a gun, I went home to look for it when he heard about the shooting. So the question of whether or not that did concern him, it's not a question. We know it concerned him because he said it. And then at the substation, and this is what he says, and somebody said there was an active shooter, I immediately freaked out because the situation. And after I saw all the cops, after I found it was an active shooter that went on this morning, and after what went on this morning, what's he talking about? He's talking about the meeting and the words on paper that says, help me, blood everywhere, with a picture of the gun he bought him. So I raced home and I found the gun missing. We went into detail about what James Crumbley and his wife did after they thought they might be charged with a crime. And the evidence clearly shows what they didn't do. They did not turn themselves in. They did not make sure that they were in the area. They withdrew $6,000 and they went to Detroit and turned the car around so the license plate is not facing, and didn't go out and buy that stuff themselves. They sent somebody else. And lastly, defendant conflicts his own statements. At the substation, the drawing was doodling. When he receives it from his wife, he's concerned, my God, WTF. He says at the substation, I immediately raced home and found the gun, and that's when I called you. I called you guys right away. It was 14 minutes after he got home. You think your kid has this gun. You know he does. You know he's really upset. You know the words he wrote. you suspect he's the shooter, and you wait 14 minutes to call 911? He doesn't know when a shooting started or when it ended. I think he owed something to the parents and the kids in that school to at least try, once he did figure out that the gun was gone, which any reasonable person would have known. But why lie and say you call right away? You called after a 10-minute conversation with your wife. At the substation, he's a perfect kid, doesn't get into trouble, yet he was looking up bullets, and yet they were called to the school and the drawing. He doesn't say that, or what the drawing was really about. It's a downplaying situation, and then he says the gun was hidden. And again, never once, I don't know how he got it. Never once says that. James Crumbley had concerns that day. He knew something was wrong. He said it in his own words. And we know that because of what was on the drawing, and we know that because we know what his response was when he received the drawing. He kept those concerns private that morning. But he didn't just fail to inform the school. He failed to act. James Crumbley failed his son in a tragic way. You're not going to hear me say that's not true. But he didn't just fail his son. He failed Hannah. He failed Madison. He failed Tate. And he failed Justin. He failed to perform his legal duty to prevent these kids from being killed. And he failed their parents too. And I ask that you find him guilty.